Hi, fourth grade. Here's another part of What's His Face. Chapter 19 The Killer Cloud. With the performance just a few days away, the seventh grade kicks into high gear. It's Tech Week, where every rehearsal is a full dress rehearsal. The morning sessions are canceled. The teacher wants his cast and crew well rested. But afternoon run throughs now stretch from the end of school until 6 p.m. And every night, after a quick dinner, the students rush back to work until almost 10. Cast members with small roles like Cooper and Aiden are recruited to help the staging crews finalize the sets, attaching rollers for quick and silent scene changes. The spotlights are lovingly nudged into position overhead. The teachers walk around with dazed looks on their face as if they're hunted animals who haven't slept in weeks. Mr. Marchese is never seen without a script, which is such a mass of scribbles and post-it notes that it resembles the giant head of a monster about to eat him. The halls ring with "forsooth and methinks." It isn't a big change for Cooper, who hears such words regularly through his earbud. But for the students of Stratford Middle School, it means one thing: 0 hour is bearing down on them. Another perk: homework is suspended until after the performance. There wouldn't be enough time to do it anyways. The cast and crew are stretched to the limit. Night after night, Cooper falls asleep in the living room couch, leaving his GX 4000 propped on the pillows so Roddy can watch reruns of The Big Bang Theory. Without the AM casting calls, mornings are a lot less stressful. No longer does Cooper have to scramble to catch the early bus. He can walk to school at a leisurely pace. The only drawback is Brock and Jolie. With marathon rehearsals taking up practically every spare minute, Romeo and Juliet have become closer than ever. It's especially painful for Cooper. At the ball, it really seemed as if Jolie was gravitating away from Brock and in Cooper's direction. Not anymore. The disaster at the Wolfson Museum put an end to that. Cooper made an idiot out of himself in front of the entire 7th grade and ticked off Stratford's residence VIP in the process. According to the latest scuttlebutt, the billionaire is planning to attend Romeo and Juliet, but everybody knows for sure that's in spite of Cooper, not because of him. How could it be worse? There's probably some way, but Cooper sure can't think of one. Brock and Jolie have been inseparable all through Tech Week. Brock even got a new BMX bike so he could ride to school with her. They detour through the dry creek bed that curls behind the school. It's a wooded path, but not wooded enough that Cooper doesn't have to watch them bouncing along through the ruts and hear their excited chatter. Brock, who has a voice that travels for miles, bellows, "What a rush!" He's obviously trying to convince her that they have so much in common because he shares her love for extreme sports. Even Roddy sees it from the GX 4000. "Such shameless pandering," he says. "It would serve him right if he breaks his neck," Cooper agrees. With a click, Roddy's ghostly form bursts out of the phone and hurtles across the field towards the woods. Cooper watches in horror as the shimmering shape swoops down on the two bikers. For an instant, the cloud encircles Brock's helmeted head. With a cry of shock, Brock panics and slams on the brakes. The bike lurched to a halt, launching him over the handlebars. He sails through the air and makes a three-point landing on his knees and his nose. "Brock!" Jolie screams. Cooper takes off across the field, high-stepping through the weeds in the direction of the fallen Brock. Halfway there, Roddy returns to the GX 4000. "How now, Cooper Vega, he says with a smug tone. What thinkest thee of that? Why would you do that? Cooper rasped. It was thine idea, the ghost replied. I did it to please thee. By the time Cooper reaches the scene of the face planting, Brock is sitting up beside his fallen bike. His helmet is on his lap. His jeans are ripped at the knees and his nose is streaming crimson. Jolie has torn the first page off his script and holds it up against his face like a handkerchief. It's so soaked through with blood that you can barely read the words. Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. What happened? Cooper asks. Of course, he knows exactly what happened, but there's no way Brock and Jolie could realize they'd been victims of a ghost attack. He lost control of the bike, Jolie explains. There are bloodstains on her Yosemite Bungee Brigade t-shirt. I didn't lose control, Brock rages in a nasal voice. Suddenly, there's this cloud around me and everything went blurry. Cooper and Jolie look up. The sky is bright blue and utterly cloudless. Brock becomes even more agitated. It was a very small cloud, and it came right at me. A BMX bike isn't a toy, Jolie explains. It's a sophisticated piece of athletic equipment. If you slam the brakes on when you're going too fast, you're going to throw yourself off of it. What do you know? Brock demands. It really, really hurts. We've got to get him to the nurse, Jolie says to Cooper. She'll put ice on the nose before the swelling gets too bad. Now, WhatsHisFace is in on this too? Brock's voice is even more enraged. What are you, EMTs? His caterwauling remindeth me of the mewing of an infant, Roddy comments through the earbud. Cooper is torn. On the one hand, he has no great love for Brock, and for very good reason. On the other, this is Roddy's fault. Done as the result of something Cooper said. Jolie, the extreme athlete, considers this just another wipeout. It happens to her all the time, and she always bounces back. But Cooper doesn't like the amount of blood pouring out of Brock's nose, now soaking the script clear through to Act 1, Scene 3. Jolie abandons her bike, and she and Cooper begin walking Brock towards the school. Not so fast, Brock complains. My knees are hurt too, you know. They sting like crazy. For the first time, Jolie looked a little worried. As Brock's injured nose swells, his voice becomes increasingly high-pitched and nasal. When he talked about my knees, it comes out by D's. This is the guy who's supposed to star as Romeo in 2 days. Clucking sounds come from the earbud. They're crossing the soccer field, leaving a trail of bloodlets, when Aiden abandons the game and comes running. Whoa, what happened to him? It was a cloud, Brock bubbles. A cloud of what? Vampire bats? More like baseball bats, said another soccer teammate. You guys are hilarious. Brock is bitter. I'm dying, and you're cracking jokes. I'm dying. Roddy mimics another earbud in through the earbud. Shh, Cooper hisses. Alert by one of the students, the nurse came rushing out of the school, with his teacher hot on her heels. Brock, the director explains at the sight of his leading man dripping blood all over the grass. A cloud got him, Aiden said tragically. Bad. Jolie speaks up. It's my fault. We were BMXing to school, and I forgot he's not as experienced as I am. Her eyes are widened. What if he can't play Romeo on Saturday? Don't even say that, the director begs. I'm fine, Brock insists. I be feed, is how it came out. I'll be the judge of that, the nurse insists. I'll drive him to the hospital. That nose should be x-rayed. Chapter 20. Lifesaver. The entire seventh grade is on pins and needles throughout the morning. In one split second, a bicycle accident, a play that was well in hand, ready to go, is suddenly hanging by a thread. The rumors swept through the school like a brush fire. The cast and crew can talk of nothing else. What if he has to stay in the hospital? What if he misses the play? What if his face is messed up? What if his voice is messed up? Oh, this is so messed up. What if he gets amnesia and forgets his lines? The tension hung in the air like fog. After all their hard work, all these weeks, they are about to lose one of their stars 2 days before the curtain rises on Romeo and Juliet. In the seventh grade wing of excuse me, Stratford Middle School, faces are taut with nervousness, lips thin and bloodless. The classes are reduced to silent reading. The teachers are too worried to teach. The principal has a sub for Mr. Marshall, who has gone to the emergency room to monitor the progress of Romeo. Jolie gets permission to trek out to the dry creek bed and rescue the BMX bikes. When she asks Cooper to go with him, Roddy is excited. "Thou must tell her, Cooper Vega." "Tell her what?" Cooper growls, pulling his jacket out of his locker. "That the cloud that almost killed Brock lives in my phone?" "That thou knowest the part of Romeo," Roddy insists, "and thou art ready to replace the buffoon whose voice be that of a sick goat." Cooper is horrified. "Is that what this is about? You attack Brock so I can take his part in the play? Roddy, why would you do such an awful thing?" "In my world, we didn't call them awful things. We called them things. Truly awful things we had aplenty. Beheadings and hangings, stretching on the rack, the dreaded Iron Maiden. But Brock is not dead, nor is he disfigured for life. He will recover, merely not in time to play Romeo. That happy task is thine, for Christ's sakes." "No," Cooper interrupts him angrily. "And afterward," the ghost says, "fair Jolie will surely love thee. I'm overjoyed to have been able to grant thee this favor." Cooper is appalled. "I don't want this favor. Sure, Brock's a jerk, and a lousy actor besides, but he didn't deserve what you did to him." "Nor did I deserve the plague," Roddy replies mournfully. "Nor did my brilliant father deserve the executioner. 'Tis far from fair, this life." "Oh, no, you don't," Cooper said harshly. "You can't blame this on fate. What happened to Brock was all you. If you'd never learned how to click yourself out of my phone, Brock wouldn't be in the emergency room having his nose tweezers out of the back of his skull. The play would have a Romeo." "The play hath a Romeo," the ghost fires back. "Thee. Thou art superior to the buffoon in every way. Who knoweth this better than I? Romeo is Barnabas, and Barnabas is my creation. I don't want to get a part in the play just because this guy ahead of me got taken out by my ghost henchman. Every time I close my eyes, I see Brock, his face bashed in, gushing blood all over the place." "I know," comes from Jolie's voice behind him. Cooper wheels, embarrassed. "Oh, sorry. I guess I was kind of talking to myself." "I can't help thinking that it's partly my fault," she said sadly. "I should have gone a little slower." The BMX was new, and Brock wasn't that experienced. "You can't blame yourself," Cooper soothes her. "No, you can blame the cloud." "The worst part," she goes on, "is that Brock had an accident." and I feel bad about it. But what really worries me is that we might have lost our Romeo. She looks up at Cooper. Does that make me a terrible person? That is thy clue, Cooper Vega, Roddy exclaims in the ear. Thou must tell her, thou shalt play Romeo. 'Tis verily a slam dunk. In answer, Cooper takes the earbud out and drops it into his pocket, besides the phone. You can't blame yourself, he repeats. You only have one speed, full out. And if he tried to match that, and he wasn't ready, that's his problem. That and ticking off the wrong ghost. They exited the school, trucked out to the accident scene in the rutted path along the dry creek bed. Roddy picks up Brock's BMX first, rolling it along the uneven ground. It's fine, she concludes. I wonder what went wrong. It was almost like the bike stopped and he kept on going. Extreme sports aren't for everyone, Cooper replies, feeling guilty but not that guilty, for kicking Brock while he was down. With Brock's gigantic helmet threatening to slip off his head, Cooper rides alongside Jolie, working hard to avoid a second wipeout of the day. The BMX is big for him, and the path is so rough that a ghost attack is the least of the rider's worries. He's relieved when they reach the smooth pavement of the school's driveway and secure the bikes in the rack by the main entrance. It's just then that Mr. Marchese drives up with Brock. The boy lets him out of the passenger door and feels for the curb with his foot. A huge ice pack obscures his entire face. How did it go? Asked Jolie. The reply came in a high-pitched nasal twang. Not so good. The ice pack lowers, revealing a giant bandage covering a swollen nose. Two black eyes complete the gruesome picture. I broke my nose. Jolie muffles a gasp and mumbles, It's not as bad as I thought. An obvious lie. It's 10 times worse than she thought, and the most horrendous part is Brock's voice. With his face swollen, he sounds like Donald Duck speaking through a 50-cent kazoo. Cooper takes out his phone and shows Roddy his handiwork. Put that away, Mr. Marchese snaps irritably. This isn't for something for you to post on Instagram. Even with the earbud in his pocket, Cooper could hear the ghost's distant cheering, but he manages the performance. A student's health is more important than any performance, the director announced tragically. I can't still bake it. Oh, I ab for to fool. Donald Duck reciting Shakespeare through a 50-cent kazoo. Since Brock's parents are both at work, Chad swings over from the high school during his lunch period to give his injured brother a ride home. Veronica is in the car with him. She regards Cooper suspiciously as he helps Chad load Brock's BMX into the trunk. What? He demands. She folds her arms in front of her. Tell me what you know about this. Brock fell off his bike. What's to know? That's not everything, she persists. I can see it in your face. Look, he slides up to her, speaking in a low voice. Just because you're a soccer star doesn't make you good at everything. He got pitched off and broke his nose. Even the helmet couldn't save him. It was an accident. It's no use. Cooper could feel the hot flush pouring in his cheeks. He'd never been able to hide anything from Veronica. On the way back to class, Cooper stops in the bathroom to pop the earbud back in. Way to go, Roddy, he mutters. Veronica thinks I know something about what happened to Brock, which I do, but I can't tell her that. Not if I don't want to end up in a nut house. The time has come to declare yourself, Roddy urges. Fear not. Thou may say, Behold thy new Romeo. If you don't shut up about that, I'm going to take the battery out of my phone, Cooper threatens him. But the play. The teachers will figure out what to do with the play, Cooper cuts in. Whatever they decide, that is how it's going to go. By the time Cooper gets back to class, word of Brock's accident is spread to every single kid. They all know that their silent reading has nothing to do with reading and everything to do with freeing the teachers to have an emergency meeting on the status of the play. Brock's really messed up, Jolie tells the anxious students. There's absolutely no way he can perform on Saturday. He looks like he lost a fight with a battering ram. Oh, Aiden says in worried understanding. That must be why the director ate a whole pack of Tums before going into the conference room with the other teachers. Ruth is horrified. You don't think they're going to cancel the play? Nah, they'll just do it without Romeo, Tyler says sarcastically. It'll be a lot shorter, and we'll have to change the name to Juliet. And it might be tough explaining why she kills herself in the end. Be serious, Jolie interrupts. The teachers will have to postpone. You know, at least until Brock gets his voice back and can take the giant bandage off his poor nose. Cooper Vega, Roddy hisses. How doth one find this conference room? Stay out of this, Roddy, Cooper mumbles. But in answer, there's a familiar click, and Roddy's form begins to rise from Cooper's pocket. Cooper falls out of his chair and sprawls onto the floor to distract attention from the ghost slipping under the door and disappearing into the hall. To his surprise, he barely gets laughed at or even noticed. The students are just too upset. For more than a month, they have struggled to put together a difficult Shakespearean play. Could it really be coming apart 2 days before the performance? Jolie and Aiden haul Cooper up and deposit him back on his chair. Cooper barely thanks him. His mind is in the conference room, frantic that the teachers don't discover that they have an eavesdropper and follow him back to his home in the GX 4000. Or worse, that the director might connect the dots between the shimmering specter in the conference room and the mysterious cloud that wiped out Brock on his bike. Calm down, Cooper struggles to soothe himself. Nobody sees Roddy because nobody's looking for a ghost. The only reason I see him is because I know he's there. As the minutes pass, Cooper begins to sweat. For sure, Roddy is bumping up against the longest time he's ever been outside the phone. He can't get lost, can he? At the Wolfson Museum, he's found his way back to a moving bus. Sooner or later, the GX 4000 always draws him back. At that moment, the door flung wide, and the director enters the room. Stoop-shouldered, pasty-faced, looking like he just lost his last friend. People, listen up. There's no easy way to say this. In a wave of shimmering air, Roddy sweeps in between the teacher's feet and leaps into Cooper's pocket. Cooper Vega, he gasped, you must set this straight. Cooper can't take his eyes off his despondent teacher. Some of you might know that Brock had a bicycle accident this morning. The director goes on in a resigned voice. It means we've lost our Romeo. We tried to postpone the performance, but Mr. Wolfson's business interests take him to Asia as of next week. There's nothing we can do but cancel our play. Chorus of protest goes up in the classroom. But we worked so hard. We were just getting good. My grandparents are driving in from Toledo just to see it. We'll be the only 7th grade that never had a Shakespearean play. As the angry babble subsides into silence, Cooper hears Roddy's voice in his ear. Tell them, Cooper Vega, this is thine only chance. Do not let this opportunity be thrown out with the contents of the chamber pot. Cooper hisses back one word, no. Then I shall. Cooper hears an electronic pop, the sound of an earbud being turned off. Roddy's voice comes out of the phone speaker, muffled by the pocket, but shouting at the top of his lungs. Cooper Vega can do that. He will be Romeo. Who said that? Demanded the teacher. A few voices even asked, who's Cooper Vega? Oh, great, Cooper reflects. On top of it all, he's What's-His-Face again. Aiden jumps to his feet. That's right. Remember the ball? Cooper did Romeo. I'll bet he knows the whole part. The director turns urgent eyes on his second watchman. Cooper, is that true? All Cooper can manage is to nod. We'll try you out at rehearsal tonight. If you really do know the role, you'll be a lifesaver. The class breaks into applause. Cooper catches a glowing look from Jolie that sends his dark mood soaring. Sometimes it's not such a terrible thing to have a ghost in your phone. Chapter 21. The Anti-What's-His-Face. Cooper stands in the wings at rehearsal, frozen with fear. It's one thing to practice in the privacy of your own bedroom with nobody to hear you but a ghost of someone who lived more than 400 years ago. It's quite another to perform a lead role in a cast that's already been perfecting this show for weeks. You're not Romeo, he tells himself. You're second watchman. You're What's-His-Face, both in the play and in real life. Worst of all, the guy he's replacing is the most popular kid in the entire 7th grade. There it is, your cue. Cooper steps out on legs of jelly beneath him. He opens his mouth to deliver Romeo's first line and draws a complete blank. Panic, ice cold and debilitating. Then a voice in his ear supplies the line for him. Is the day so young? He repeats the words, praying he could muster enough volume to get them past the floodlights. To his astonishment, he hears his own voice ringing with confidence and expression. From there, the countless hours of rehearsal kick in, and he steps up to his fellow cast members, delivering Romeo's complicated speeches with power and flair. When he stumbles over the occasional line, Roddy is right there in his earpiece to supply it. He's the playwright, after all. Who knows Romeo and Juliet better than he does? But those stumbles become increasingly rare as Cooper grows into his character. He isn't reciting from memory anymore. He is Romeo. The skeptical looks from the other actors are turning into admiration, relief, even celebration. The play isn't ruined because of Brock's accident. It's going to be better than ever. Soon Jolie is on stage with him, his Juliet, and she's practically glowing with approval. As they perform their parts, speaking Shakespeare's words, Roddy's words, a lightness takes hold in Cooper's gut, expanding outward until it fills his entire body. He could fly if he chose to. It's triumph, but it's something else too. Transformation. His days as What's-His-Face are over. When the run-through ends, the entire cast gives Cooper a spontaneous ovation. The director is practically in tears. Cooper, why didn't you tell us you were so good? I don't know if I'm good, Cooper manages to stammer. I guess I just kind of picked it up from hearing it over and over again at rehearsal. Since I only had one line, I spent a lot of time listening to everyone else. With Cooper playing Romeo, Tyler does double duty as second watchman in Act 5, since his character dies early on in the story. You're fantastic, Aiden assured him. Way better than, not everybody could be as good as you. What they all want to say is that he's way better than Brock, but no one comes out with the name of the former Romeo. Sidelined or not, Brock is still a major presence at the school. There's sympathy for the ill timing of his injury, but mostly, no one wants to get on his bad side. In spite of this, there's unspoken agreement that not only has the play been saved, but it's also been improved. And by a former What's-His-Face, no less. When the directors send everyone home for dinner break that day, Cooper and Jolie leave the gym side by side. Even more impressive, Jolie walks her BMX bike so she and Cooper can discuss their upcoming roles in Saturday's performance. I love how you do the balcony scene, Jolie said. You really get. That's when Juliet asked where far out there. She doesn't mean where, she means why. Why did she have to fall for the son of her family's enemies? Cooper is torn in two. On one hand, he finally has Jolie all to himself, co-starring with her in the most romantic story in history. He's never going to be able to keep up with her at skydiving or her extreme sports, so acting together is as good as it gets. She's impressed by his performance, and not just her. The director and the teachers are practically gaga over how he stepped in and saved the production. The other kids practically break into applause every time he says a line better than Brock used to say it. If this keeps up, he'll be famous in the 7th grade. The anti-What's-His-Face. It's paradise. It's perfect. But he can't keep his mind off the source of all this amazing luck. The accident that was no accident. Roddy deliberately knocked Brock out of the play and broke the poor kid's nose in the process. If Roddy were a living person and not a ghost, he'd be guilty of assault. How can I enjoy all this good stuff knowing where it came from? In front of Cooper's house, Jolie turns to him again. You're the best, Cooper. Our play would be in ruins if it wasn't for you. See you after dinner. He can't resist adding, parting is such sweet sorrow. She regards him with such admiration that he hates himself for loving it so much. She climbs on the BMX and pedals off. The exchange is not unnoticed by the ghost in Cooper's phone. Ah, Cooper Vega. Success is sweet, is it not? My advice to thee is to marry her in all haste, ere she changeth her mind. Instead of answering, Cooper enters the house, marches straight to the kitchen, pulls out a roll of masking tape, and places a piece squarely over the camera lens on the GX4000. What doth thou do, and why? Cooper pastes a second piece of tape over the rear-facing camera, eliciting another cry of outrage from the ghost. Cooper Vega, you hast blinded me, and there's a click, but Roddy's shimmering form does not emerge from the phone. With both lenses blocked, the ghost is trapped inside. Roddy is deeply worried. I understand not. Why hast thou imprisoned me thus? So you can't jump out of my phone and fly into some poor kid's face and practically kill him like you did with Brock, Cooper hisses. Roddy's eyes are wide with bewilderment. But I did that for thee. It might have been okay in your century, but people who do that now are called criminals and they get locked up, Cooper tries to explain. So I'm locking you inside my phone so you can't get out and do me any more favors. But Cooper Vega, I have delivered unto thee all thine heart desire. Yeah, and every time I try and be happy about it, I see Brock with his bashed-in face and 2 black eyes. I have what my heart desires because you stole it away from Brock. Roddy's voice is shaky. Are we no longer friends? It's because we're friends that I have to stop you, Cooper reasons. Look, I know you're trying to help, but what you did was totally out of control. I have a responsibility to the other people in my century to protect them from you. But Cooper Vega, Now I'm taking the earbud out so we can both cool off. I'll get back to you after the play and we can figure out where to go from there. On the way to after dinner rehearsal, Jolie has an idea. Let's stop by Brock's house and check in on how he's feeling. Well, Cooper Hedges, we don't want to be late. We won't stay long, Jolie promises. We'll just say, we're thinking of him. Oh, I'm thinking of him, all right, Cooper reflects. Thanks to him, I'm at war with a ghost. Besides, Jolie adds, it'll be a boost to the rest of the cast to know that Brock is doing okay. At the Baumgartner's house, Brock's mother ushers them into the living room where his son is on the couch, propped up on so many cushions. He reminds Cooper of the Princess and the Pea. If anything, he looks even worse than he did when we saw him last. His black eyes have blossomed into multicolored splashes of modern art, and the top of his cheeks have swollen in sympathy with his nose. Spying Jolie, he beams, which is a gruesome sight. Then he notices Cooper. How cub you bought WhatsHisFace. Hi, Brock, Cooper manages. It's good to see you're doing well. I'm not doing well. I'm dying. I know you're worried about what's going to happen next with the play, Jolie trills, beaming at him. Well, we've got great news. Cooper is taking over Romeo. Wherefore art me, Cooper adds, repeating Brock's signature joke. Brock's face darkens, which is quite a feat considering most of it's pretty dark already. It's plain that if he could frown, he would. Chad appears in the living room. Veronica and Tub. We're going out to dinner. Should I bring you back a sub? I can't chew, the injured kid brother laments. 1-piece soup coming up. Chad replies cheerily. No crackers. Come on, V, I'm starving. Feel better, Brock, Veronica says with an accusing look at Cooper. We should go too, put in Jolie. We just wanted to say hi and let you know your part is in good hands. The sound that comes from Brock is like an old car with a broken muffler. When the door shuts behind them, Veronica pulls her younger brother aside as Jolie walks ahead. Real classy, Cooper. Coming over here with Brock's girl to rub it in his face that you stole his part. First of all, she isn't Brock's girl, Cooper returns. She isn't anybody's girl, and I didn't steal his part. I just happen to be the only other person who knows it. What am I supposed to do? Make them cancel the play? Zouds. She stares at him. Zouds? Yeah, zouds. It's a Shakespearean word. More to the point, it's a Roddy word. Is the ghost language starting to seep into Cooper's everyday speech? Let's go, Cooper, Jolie calls. Rehearsal in 5 minutes. The two of them run off towards the school. That's it for this part. Beginning of next week, I will record the rest of the book and have your teacher send it out to you. And we'll get it done before the last day of school. Bye.